even when we celebrate, we start killing ourselves, right?
Yeah. Our celebration is a celebration of death.
Like it truly is. Like over Thanksgiving, we got the, think about we got the ass, the ham ass, the pig ass there. We got, if you still eating chill, I know people that still got the chillings and shit going on. Yeah. The vegetables are seasoned to absolute death, and then we pray over it and then we say, "Hey, Lord Jesus, please let this food bless and nourish our body and soul." So the thing about it is it's a part of our culture too.
Yeah.
And I like to date young ladies that can cook, and even what that means, right? You know how to cook. You probably know how to put some shit together that ain't good for us.
Yeah.
Right? But it tastes amazing. Welcome to Hardly Initiated, where real men talk real shit. It is your host, Tyshawn Jackson, rocking here with Ryan Catchins. Ryan Catchins, how you feeling, baby?
Yo, I got that morning pump this morning. So ladies, y'all see the chest been growing every episode. The inches is growing every episode. So they gotta know. They gotta know.
Man, that's phenomenal, man. Yeah. That's phenomenal. We about to get some major game. We have imported an expert for y'all this episode. So go ahead and get your notepads because we have went ahead and found for you Dr. Bobby Price on the platform.
Hey, Dr. Holistic.
Ready to get in the building, man. I'm excited about the conversation.
Absolutely, man.
Hey, he's a black doctor. Look, there's some hype shit going on right now.
With waves. Have you ever seen a doctor with waves?
Looking too cool.
Honestly, bro. A doctor with waves is crazy. So you putting your do-rag on at night.
Man. Throughout the day, brother.
He's like, so does anybody in your family have any history of heart disease?
Right, he about to get hella patients DMing him after this episode.
Facts. He pulled up in the range to, hey, this one here?
Qualified.
Hey, ladies, go ahead and hit the DM, man. Doctor, man, thank you for coming up to the show, brother.
Man, I'm excited, man. These are the kind of conversations I want to have with the gentlemen I want to have them with.
And you know what? First of all, men, especially, I'm hoping my men get tuned into this one because we got the biggest issues with our health. We, getting checked up, our diets, the whole nine. We not really tapped in.
Yeah, for sure. And people, I've been asked like multiple times, why is it that men don't tap into their health as much? And what I always tell people is that us as men, we have to admit our frailty. Anytime we look at our diets, when we look at our bodies, when we look at our diagnosis, when we look at our bill of health. And we've been taught as men to be supermen. We've been taught that we can't be frail. We've been taught that we can't even have any points of weaknesses. And so I think for a large majority of men, they don't tap into their health because that really is the feminine part of energy. That is nourishment and care for self. But men have to understand that even though overall our predominant energy is masculinity, there's always a yin and a yang that you have to balance. And that part of that balancing that's the part of the femininity that we got to get in touch with. Because at the end of the day, when we're thinking about legacy, our families are going to do what we do at the end of the day. If we eat well, they're going to eat well. And when I say well, I don't mean well as in eating a really tasty meal, because quite often when we say we're about to eat good, that really means we're about to eat bad.
Right. We're about to feast.
But what I mean is if you grow up eating, if you have your family and you're eating healthy, your kids are going to watch that and they're sponges and they're going to take notice, and that's going to be their legacy too. And so it's unfortunate, but a lot of men just aren't tapped into health for that reason. And so that's that part of my feminine energy that I do tap into that allows me to be in this space and educate people about health, because there was a part of my journey where I wasn't taking care of my health, which really ignited my journey to start this whole whirlwind in me up in this seat right here, right now.
First of all, just with that intro, I already know this show about to be fire, y'all.
That shit makes sense, though,
it's
man.
Getting energetic.
I was wondering about that, too, because I haven't been prioritizing health. Working out, yes, I got to do that. But, I think that's what it is. My feminine energy is just non-existent. I'm just too hard. I'm too hard, dog.
Yeah, we're programmed to be that way, too, bro. Like when we're in a family, we're the last person taken care of. You know, like when we're in a family, like we can't say we're hurt. We can't say we can't work. Like we don't get an opportunity to say like right now.
That's weakness.
Yeah, like it's viewed as weakness. We can't be emotionally vulnerable because when we are, like everybody looking around like, yo, what's going on with that? You understand? And so because we don't have a space to do that, a safe space to do that, we don't do it.
So what is it that helps you get over that mental conditioning?
Well, what I realized for myself was that I started to realize that the manly diet that I was eating was making me unmanly.
Oh,
You see what I'm saying? Like,
go deeper on that one.
Yeah, because when you say unmanly, what exactly do you mean by that?
well, what I mean by that is like I got diagnosed with high blood pressure when I was 16. Now just think about that. I'm an athlete, only have about 5% body fat. I'm going to college, play basketball there. Always been an athlete, always been very athletic, always been in the weight room, et cetera, et cetera. But I get diagnosed with high blood pressure at the age of 16. Graduate school, start working in the hospital, and around 28 years old, and I'm like, I feel 50. Like my joints is aching. I'm not able to move on the basketball court like I used to move. You know, everything that how we think of as a man, like I feel strong, but I also feel like I'm breaking down. And so like everything that we think of as a man at 28, I start to feel like it was starting to wither away. I was also noticing in the bedroom, I was becoming a one-hitter quitter.
What is it? So you mean like just one round bust?
One round and then we laying down.
So see,
Slay.
right. So
A lot of niggas just got very offended just now. I'll tell you that much.
Hey, but you can do a lot. You can do a lot. Mike Tyson used to knock niggas out. So with that, I always thought that was just a natural part of age. I thought, you get into your mid 30s, your 40s, you kind of just slow down a bit.
Yeah.
But what factors actually contribute to your vitality?
Well, what's really important about what you just said is there are a lot of things that are common, but it's not normal. You understand? So we view it as normal. Like you going into your 30s and now like you don't have the same strength and vitality in the bedroom. But like if you look at our great-grandfathers and great-great-great-grandfathers, like they had 10 kids.
And they was knocking chicks up at 50.
Right.
Like,
Daddy, long stroke.
And so when you start to think about that, they're in their 60s and 70s.
Right.
Still having kids. But if you look at the men today, because I'm a witness. I just watch what's around me. And as I started to watch what's around me and because I work with so many women of varying ages, I'm starting to notice that men are just as sexless as, men are saying women are as they go into the age. And I also started to notice a lot of young men coming into the pharmacy to pick up, Viagra in their 20s.
Yo, so we got to talk about that because now.
Wait, so you got a little too excited about
No,
that.
no, because
man want to go pick up his bag the other day.
No, Doc. Listen, I'm highly offended by this because on my timeline, I keep seeing hymns, and it's like hymns, and it's specifically marketed toward 30-year-old somethings.
Yes.
I'm in that category, 30-year-old somethings.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine if one of my boys told me that they was using this. Like, what is it that they would have done to their body to put them in a position to now have to use this?
Well, everything has shifted now in terms of not just the food, but we're getting a lot of what are called xenoestrogens or phantom estrogens or fake estrogens in the water and cosmetic and hygienic products. Things you put on your body in terms of your hair, your lotions. There's just so many those estrogens in the things that we eat. And because of that, it's feminizing a lot of men. And when I say feminizing, that doesn't always mean that men are now becoming gay.
Right.
That could mean that, but like that's not just what I mean. But it's important to understand that hormones make us who we are, like in terms of our gender and our gender identification. Like my deep voice is because of hormones. Like as I go through puberty, when my voice gets deep, it's because of hormones.
Wow.
It's not like It's a natural process, but it's really because of hormones. Hair on my face, hormones, okay? My ability to perform in the bedroom, hormones, okay? Part of it. My ability to be assertive and motivated, hormones. And so when you start to take those things away, then you start to see those things that we associate with manly qualities start to disappear. And so one of those things that you'll see is as testosterone begins to drop, then you see some of those manly qualities begin to drop too. And the unfortunate thing about a lot of young men today is like, especially in that 20-year-old age range, 30-year-old age range, what's important to understand is that food and everything shifted in the last 30 years. You didn't see genetically modified foods 30 years ago. They came onto the scenes in the late 1990s. And a lot of those foods have chemicals in them, one in particular called atrazine, okay? A scientist did a demonstration with frogs. And what he was able to see as these frogs became more and more exposed to this chemical that is commonly used in genetically modified foods is actually the second most used herbicide in the whole of U.S.
Wow.
These frogs that were male frogs were being feminized or converted into what he called, they became gay. But they didn't become gay. These male frogs became female frogs.
The genitals changed.
Everything changed. You see what I'm saying? So like, now think about that for a second. If it could do that to a frog, then it can slowly do that to a human
over generations,
over the course of 3 decades.
Wow.
Okay. And when you start to think about, like, let's do a comparison. So when you think about the dose that it took to make that frog, that male frog or female frog, I think it was like 200 nanograms per deciliter, right? And then you think about what the EPA or the government here in the U.S. has allowed in drinking water. What would you guess it is?
First of all, I don't even know them damn measurements, so I can't
so
even guess.
Deciliters.
Deciliters.
So just 200 for a frog. What do you think is allowed in the water?
1,000.
Okay.
Wait, 200. Wait. Did you just double? Like, did you just 5x what was in?
Well, it's a smart guess because in the U.S., there are things that are allowed in our food supply and our water supply that are banned in every other country.
That I did not know.
But the guess is actually 3,000. That's what's allowed in our water.
So it takes 200 to turn a male frog into a female frog.
Yeah.
And 3,000
is the allowable amount that is in, U.S. water. So when you start to think about that over the course of multiple decades.
Now, when you say water, is this just every water or is this a specific water? Because I drink spring water.
Yeah. So like, essentially what I'm talking about is municipal water, the water that you would get out of the sink, that you would get out of the shower,
Pipe water.
Yeah.
But you may not be drinking that water, but it is entering your system, right? Because this is what you're showering with, is what you're washing.
In it, yeah. Yeah, so it's really important to understand that's part of the problem, is that you got young men who literally didn't have a space and time where, like, there was no period where they weren't exposed to things like that. And then you start to think about the meat. Most meat is injected with hormones. They do it because it makes the chicken grow. As a matter of fact, like, when women take birth control, it makes them grow, right or wrong. Like, women get thicker.
Right.
And even in, like, in the Caribbean, like, they'll say, like, a girl got thick, they'll be like, she must took the chicken pill. You understand?
Yeah.
It makes today we have chicken that it used to take 6 months for it to grow to full size. Now it takes 28 days. And the chickens can't even walk because they haven't properly developed, but they're the size of an adult chicken. So when you start to think about that, what is our favorite meat in our culture? Chicken.
Which I don't even know how the fuck that happened. It is chicken.
Yeah. So you see what I'm saying? It's a combination of things. It's not just one thing. Like, it's many of these things that add up cumulatively that we end up impacting our health. It shifts not only, how how we live, but it can shift who we are.
See, now I'm getting a better understanding that it's really a war going on right now, because when I think about the very masculine, strong man, I usually I usually look at the lot of how that person was nurtured.
Yeah.
But you saying over time, chemically, we're being induced with these different agents that's literally making us weaker as we grow old.
Yeah. Just, I mean, like I'm trying to hit home the point, but like when I see a man and he's having issues in the bedroom, I know he's having issues other places too. So you see men start to develop man boobs.
Yeah.
Like that is a feminization of a man. So when your testosterone levels go too low and your estrogen levels go too high, you start to lose hair. Okay? Remember what I told you, testosterone makes us grow hair. All right? You also start to lose muscle. Even if you go to the gym and you work out hard, you're still not gaining any muscle, okay? And all of these processes, again, like you'll even hear the voice get, like lighter too.
My shit been cracking a little lately.
Look, that's why y'all turn into hoes. It's the chicken.
Right.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
we don't understand, like even when I see like little young boys and young girls who are confused about their gender or what have you, you have to understand they're growing up in that environment where it's estrogen dominant.
Wow.
And then what's also really important to understand is this body is made to put things back in balance. So like for a girl who goes through that and estrogen goes up, you know what the body does to balance it? It shoots the testosterone up to balance the estrogen. So all of a sudden in that little girl, now she feels more like a boy. She starts to develop muscle more. She starts to begin to think that I like girls.
Right.
It makes sense. And so I think that's the part of the conversation that many people aren't having. And I would go out on a limb to say, like, okay, you start to look at like young girls, they're getting the period so early now.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
And the bodies are developing very quickly.
Yeah. So that is an indication that there's an estrogen imbalance, estrogen dominance. And so typically, you go back to the 1800s, typically a woman would get a period in the early 1800s around the age of 16 to 17.
Wow.
Now it's like what, 10, 11, 12?
Now they're getting 9 years old, bro.
Damn.
So we're not looking at those little shifts that are telling us we're doing something wrong. And we're living in a country that won't change the rules. Like they won't say these chemicals that they have banned in every country in Europe, we're not banning those chemicals.
There's too much money behind those chemicals right now.
It's too much lobbying. And so because of that, like that's why you're starting to see this shift, not only in young women, but especially in men too.
Okay, so if I'm a dude and I got low T, that's what Tyshawn calls it, low T.
Okay.
I'm operating with the low T. What are some remedies or some things that I can put in place to get back right?
Well, one of the most important things you got to understand, like your diet plays a huge role. I mean, like people forget like the whole like moniker, you are what you eat. Like it's true. Like if you put trash in your body gonna be trash. You know, if you put good fuel in, this is the best example. So you guys are doing well for yourself. You may at some point decide, I want to go out and buy a Bentley. Right? You go out and buy that Bentley. There's rules to the game to that Bentley that don't apply to a Honda.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's totally different. You can't take the Bentley to a regular Jiffy Lube.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you cannot put regular gas in a Bentley. You see what I'm saying? And because you can't put regular gas in there, you got to go by what the manufacturer told you to do. All right? I could put liquid gold in a Bentley. It doesn't matter. It's not what is supposed to be put in that Bentley. All right? We're doing that with food. You see what I'm saying? Like we're eating food that is very rich and, you know, we see it as a sign of opulence. That's why I love like Nas' album, like King's Disease. That actually means something. King's Disease was this disease that only royalty got back in the days. And the only reason that royalty got it was because they got to eat rich foods, a lot of meat, a lot of sugary things, okay? King's disease is actually gout.
Wow.
It's gout.
And that was killing a lot of people. Yeah, okay.
And so like whenever you get gout, one of the things they tell you need to do is lower your meat content and stop eating so much sugar.
So I gotta
Okay.
so I really just need to be sitting around and eating salads all goddamn day. Is what
No,
you're telling me, right?
what I'm trying to tell you is that the body is telling you what's wrong.
But now I need to figure out, because we've been lied to, right? So we saw the food pyramid. That's some bullshit, right?
They changed it. It ain't even a food pyramid no more.
It's a
What
matrix,
the hell is
right?
it?
It's a
Octagon?
full
What
matrix.
the hell is
So now it went from the food pyramid to my plate, and now they're changing it to something else.
So what is the truth? Like, what am I supposed to be regularly putting into my body to maintain, especially as a man?
Yeah.
And by the way, if there is a difference between a man and a woman, can you be clear on that too? But it's, for me, start with me first.
Yeah.
What do I need to be putting in my body?
Well, the foundation of what you need to be eating is fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. That needs to be the foundation. Anything else you put is most likely is not gonna cleanse your body. It's gonna clog your body. I mean, case in point, if you eat a steak, like that steak don't come right out, do it.
Nah, take a few days.
It's taking a few days. So that's telling you it's not cleansing, it's clogging. So the idea is, and I'm just trying to give you some principles before I give you like specific foods. But the idea is you want to eat to cleanse and not to clog. Okay? When you clog, what happens is that food sits in your gut, it rots and ferments, it creates a belly, and then you call it fat, but it's really you full of
Shit.
You see what I'm saying? That's all it is. Because most people are constipated.
So they literally are full of shit.
And so,
Literally.
And see, so I know a lot of ladies too, and a lot of ladies deal with this in particular, where they just they'll go a whole day without shitting.
2 days,
And some
3
people,
days.
Yeah.
and some of them have actually believed, I just don't shit like that. Like that's how my body works. Is there truth to like some people are just naturally supposed to shit a little bit less, or are all our bodies supposed to be shitting every single day?
You're supposed to be dumping every meal. That's what's normal. You got to remember what I said. There's a lot of things around health that are common, but it's not normal. It's common to be constipated. As a matter of fact, the medical definition of constipation is less than 3 or 4 bowel movements in a week. Now, let that sit. That's the medical
lot of people.
definition of constipation. Less than 3 or 4 bowel movements. So if you go in and you say, I feel constipated, I only had 5 bowel movements this week, and they'll be like, well, I don't think that's a problem. That's what they're gonna say.
Right.
Because that's not the medical definition. Again, they're going by what's common, not what's normal. What's normal is, and I'll explain why it's normal. What's normal is you should have a bowel movement after every meal. 3 to 4 hours after a meal, you should have a bowel movement.
That makes sense.
Okay? Now let me explain why that should make a lot of sense to you. With food, this is how food works. In the body, real recognize real. If your food ain't real, your body can't recognize it. That's just how it is. So if you eat a lot of processed food, if you eat food that is dead, that has no vitality to it, it can't nourish the body, okay? So these are a few things that have to happen when food comes in our body. It has to be able to be broken down, okay? So just imagine you eat some corn and the corn goes straight through. What has that told you about the corn?
It couldn't be processed.
It couldn't be broken down. The body's like, I can't do nothing with that.
It's like
So-
swallowing a penny or something.
I'm gonna just give it back to you. That's what the body is saying, right?
Right.
So the food has to be able to be broken down, all right? The next thing is it has to be able to be utilized, meaning it has to have some sort of utility. When you go into the supermarket, 80% of the supermarket is on a shelf in a bag, box, can, jar, etc. And most of those products, and I call them products, not food, when you switch it and put it on the back label, it's gonna tell you what it really is. But when you look at the front label, it's gonna be like, this is healthy and natural and all this like bullshit that really doesn't mean anything, isn't governed by any governing body. But when you turn it on the back label, it's going to say, these are the ingredients. And when you start reading through those ingredients, unless you were a chemistry major like I was, you're not going to even be able to pronounce them, let alone know what they are. And I'm talking about things that are simple, like a jar of like spaghetti sauce. The first ingredient is the highest concentration of what's inside of that product.
And then it goes from there in descending order like that.
Less and less and less, and that tells you what's less and less and less.
Did not know
So
that.
the last ingredient is what's supposed to be the least. Sometimes you're getting like tomato sauce, and tomatoes isn't the first ingredient. So it's really important to understand. All right, so you got to be able to utilize it. The body only utilizes things that are vitamins, minerals, amino acids, healthy fats, healthy sugars. That's the only thing the body wants. The physical food itself, the body doesn't need that. That's why you poop it out. It doesn't need the physical food. It needs the nutrients. Make sense?
So we got what we the first one was
You got to be able to break it down.
break it down,
You got to be able to utilize it. Okay? The third thing is you got to be able to absorb it. Okay? So now you've broken it down. It can be used. You got to be able to absorb it into the body. If you got an unhealthy gut that is plaque with old feces that is rotting and fermenting, you won't be able to absorb it. Okay? The last thing with food, and most importantly, you got to be able to eliminate.
Get it out you.
You got to be able to get it out, because when you're not able to get it out, that food is not only going to rot and ferment, and now it is not even useful to the body. It's going to begin to create its own toxins and become deadly to you. Make sense?
Yeah.
So it's so important for us to understand, like, we got to really re-engineer what we think is food.
So that sounds like no corn, no dairy.
no meat. Shit, like, because I mean, meat, you're not shitting that out as soon as you eat it.
Right. And so, like, let me give the audience a little bit background. So
They getting sad as hell. People watching this shit getting sad as hell right now.
No Chick-fil-A sauce. What the fuck?
I have to do that because, like, what happens is, like, I sound like I'm the party pooper.
right.
When it comes to food, but you have to understand, like, we've been shifted, and we've been shifted that way because you can productize food products. You can't productize nature. Okay, you can't patent nature. Okay, but products I can patent that. I can productize it. I've been plant-based, vegan, whatever you want to call it, for the last 11 years.
And well, you a pretty big guy. How much do you weigh?
I weigh 218.
See, so that's the thing about me. I'm thinking, in order for me, because I want to maintain my weight too, right?
Yeah.
I think of just this vegan guy, somebody could just, I could just whoop their ass. This little frail ass dude. Right. How are you able to maintain this size eating just, you eating just fruits and veggies?
Yeah, fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds. So, one is how you work out. So that's really important. And the basic rule that I give people is, if you want to look like an athlete, you got to train like one. Most people go in the gym, and I'm like, again, I'm a witness. I'm just watching people. I'm a people watcher, and I'm watching people, and I'm like, damn,
they lost.
You look like you're on the couch in the gym.
Yeah.
Yep.
Chilling.
Yep.
But they want to look like an athlete. You got to train like an athlete. You want to look like one. Now you got to pick which athlete you want to look like. You want to look like a track star. You want to look like a football player. You want to look like a basketball player. It's up to you.
Who you chose?
I chose a mix between a track star and a basketball player. Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, like that's what works for me, because I also want what comes with that too, the agility that comes with it, the quickness.
Endurance.
Yeah. That's what I want. That's how I want my body to look. So I train like that. So that's the first thing I do. I train like I want to look. The other thing that's really important is you got to understand how muscle really grows. So, like in my book, I have a whole chapter called, I talk about the whole myth around protein. And
oh shit!
yeah.
First of all, we getting going personal.
So
now.
this because we taking protein,
Yeah.
and I think I heard Sebi also say protein does not exist, which was so polarizing. But
Well, I'll never say that.
okay. So go ahead.
I'll never say that. But here's the misunderstanding about protein. is that our body really doesn't need protein. What it needs is amino acids. And to give you sort of a short understanding of what the difference between the two is, when you look at a brick house, that's a protein. When you look at the individual bricks, that's the amino acids. So your body doesn't need the whole protein, because when it gets the whole protein, it's got to figure out how to break that down. And one of the most difficult foods or food choices that we can make when it comes to breaking down food are proteins, which means that it's going to cause us to use a lot of energy to be able to break that down. That's why, during the holidays when people eat a lot of meat, they get the itis.
Oh yeah, you slow down, pass out.
They get the itis because they're eating so much meat, and it's very hard to break it down. But when you eat food in the form of getting your amino acids from plants, because with plants, you're going to get amino acids primarily. You're going to get the plant protein, but the plant proteins are easy to break down because they're not as complicated as meat. And so it's really important to understand that, that's what the body needs, amino acids, not proteins. The other thing that's really important for us to understand is that when you and I tell people, just take a moment. And you don't got to have 3 degrees like I do. Like, you don't got to be smart, but just look out in nature. Like, nature is the most ingenious display of divinity and ingenuity that we could ever see. And when you look out in nature, like, think about it for a second. What are the 3 primary meats that we eat today?
Chicken, beef, pork.
I hope not. I hope. Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely pork.
Chicken, beef, and pork. Do any of those animals eat meat?
Well, pork, they'll eat anything.
Well, is that their primary food?
I was like,
Yeah, that's true.
So if you were to, again, you have to remember, I said in nature.
In nature.
Put them out in nature, not in a cage where they got to be fed.
That's true.
But put them out in nature. Would they eat? They don't eat meat.
right.
Now let's look at the strongest animals in nature. An ox.
Lion. Well, lion.
No.
They even lie to.
I'll take in terms of strength.
Okay, strength.
Silverback gorilla.
Silverback gorilla. Let's say an elephant.
Elephant.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I can go down the list, but the strongest animals in nature do not eat meat.
Damn,
gorillas. I never thought about that.
And when I tell you, like, a gorilla can lift 13 times its strength. So if a gorilla weighs 800 pounds, which they can weigh, like a silverback, they can lift 10 to 13 times their strength, their weight.
That's insane.
Okay,
I'm sold.
So it's just really important to understand, like, I understand why we think that meat is the key to everything in terms of strength, but it just doesn't work like that. Now, what I will tell you, and I'll be very transparent and honest about this, when I first went on my vegan journey 11 years ago, I did feel like I lost strength initially. But that was only because I didn't understand, first, how to work out, and secondly, how to feed myself. Because, I mean, despite what we think, it is not normal for a human to just be walking around all brolic.
That's true. That's very true.
That's not a normal thing. That takes effort.
Right.
Okay. And with effort requires preparation and planning. Okay. With that type of, result that you want to get. And so once I understood that, then it was like, oh, that's all I need to do. And so, like, when I go to the gym now and work out, so like I work out with like 225, right?
Yeah.
And I never really go beyond that. And they'll ask me, like, well, why don't you? Because it's like, well, let's see how strong you are.
right.
So,
Everybody wants to do that.
So yeah, that's like, because you eat the plants and shit. So I think one day I went up to like 350. And so they were like, well, why don't you lift this? Because I know you, like, your shoulders, like, you get real big if you. I was like, but that's not what I want. I told you, like, I want to look like an athlete. But the athlete I'm not trying to look like is a football player.
Right.
I'm trying to look like a trash star between a trash star and a basketball player. So that's what my goals are. So,
and can you even get that big eating just, meatless?
Sure.
You can still get that big
for
with
sure, man. When you start to look at the Mr. Universes, and there's even a guy who was in the Olympics who won in the weightlifting contest, a lot of them are plant-based now. When you start to look at some of the major athletes out there, many of them are going plant-based now. So of course you can. It's just a matter of like, it's very difficult to get over that belief system because it's been pounded in us. But some of the most, I mean, even Carl Lewis back in the day, vegan. Even the Serena sisters, you know, they'll tell you like Venus is vegan year round, and Serena, she says during play, I'm vegan.
But I've heard, so there's also myths that vegan is not really even a healthy diet, right? Like the person that invented it, this dude was kind of a nut, and it's not something that you should be doing. And I think there's also a difference between vegetarian and vegan as well, right?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. So you're 100% right. The guy who sort of created the idea of veganism, the idea wasn't even around health at all. The idea was around the protection of animals. That was all it was about. So it wasn't about health. And so I actually don't like using the word vegan.
Because it represents, that's where it came from.
Yeah, so if you've been listening to me, I've been like plant-based, vegan, with the air quotes. I don't like using it, but I just don't have a better word for it.
Okay.
And so like...
Is it not vegetarian?
Well, it used to be, but then what happened was like people deviled it up. And now all of a sudden you got lacto-ovo vegetarians. So they'll have some cheese.
Oh, I get it. I get it.
You see what I'm saying? And
Have some salmon.
Then you got pescatarians. They say they vegetarian. So
Yeah, it's like the LGBTQ with the shit. Like it's
it's been deviled. It's been deviled up. Actually,
All types.
That is the more appropriate word. But it's been deviled up so much that I can't even use it because it really doesn't apply to me either. And the unfortunate thing about the title of being vegan is that most people who are vegan today, unfortunately, they eat vegan junk food. They eat vegan products. They don't eat actually fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. So like things like Beyond Burger and Impossible Burger and, you know, all this diet cheese and things of that nature and Just Eggs, like these are food products. These are not real fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And so it'll say plant-based on the front, but again, turn it on the label. The label gonna keep it real with you. And it's gonna say what it really is. So the unfortunate thing is that most people made their transition during the whole What the Health documentary.
Yeah, that was scaring the shit out of people.
Yeah, and so during that transition, and people started to learn about it, they were learning about it during this explosion of vegan products. And as these vegan products began to explode and people were looking for alternatives, they started to look for alternatives for the old foods that they were eating. And all of the same companies that make trash food just simply went over here and said, well, let's make some vegan trash food.
Man, it's so crazy because even when you know the truth gets unveiled and you get exposed to the truth, those same companies use that as marketing to sell you some other bullshit.
Yeah, 100%. Because the rules of the game didn't change. You remember what I said until we changed how. All right, so I worked for the FDA at one point.
Man, was an undercover.
You was a part of the game.
Spook at the door.
And so, like, what people forget about that is it is the Food and Drug Administration. They're not just in charge of drugs, they're in charge of our food too. So when genetically modified organisms or foods were introduced to our system, they approved it. And I talk about this in my book, the guy who approved it, he was one of the attorneys from one of the industries that was pushing genetically modified foods. He came over to the FDA and became deputy director and approved those foods. So it's really important for us to understand until we start changing the rules in the game, then it's always going to be that way. They're going to always put out trash. And it makes sense because all the industries feed each other. The food industry feeds the hospitals. The hospitals feed the drug companies. These are the three largest industries here in the U.S. You see what I'm saying? And so they're not going to want healthy people who live into 100, no disease, dying quietly in their sleep. It doesn't behoove. It's horrible for business. They don't want healthy people. They don't want people just dropping dead either. They want the people right in the middle. The walking dead.
Just like your credit card companies.
Yep.
You want it the same way.
Yep.
Okay, so let me ask you this: when it comes to, because me and Tyshawn, we young single men and we out here dating. You know what I mean? And I just can't imagine. I mean, some of the young ladies, man, they love their sweets, they love the breads, they love the eggs, they love the cheese.
Yep.
So when
they love them brunch ass, they love the liquors at brunch too.
They love the brunches. You know what I mean? So when you are dealing with a woman, because what's your relationship status right now? That's what. Hey, they all do that.
Everybody gets stumped on that. That shit an SAT question.
Slayer.
Right now.
I always look at it from like, what angle are you asking me that from? Like, are you asking me, am I married or single?
Oh,
or are you
yeah.
asking me, am
Married
I
or
with
single.
somebody?
Absolutely, married single.
Oh, okay, so I'm single, but I'm
qualifying. You qualify something.
with somebody. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what are those things like? How do you get the person that you are now evaluating for this serious relationship to take on some of these new ideas that you have?
Well, I mean, ideally, you want to meet a person that you're aligned with. So that's what I do.
Got you.
You
So
know,
they
like,
already know.
Now, what I will say is this: like, I will say, like, you meet somebody, and this is a real case scenario. You meet somebody where, they're not there, like they eating crazy, and then I'm not a judgmental person. Like, I'm one of those people. I give you information, and then it's up to you to take that information and then do with it what you want to do with it. Now, for me, because of the standards that I have for myself, I want you to have the same standards for your health. So if I give you the kind of information that I'm going to give you, and then you don't make better choices, I can only assume that you're going to be like that with everything in your life.
You disqualified.
Yeah. So like for me, it's like, if I say to you like, yo, so the reason why you're having a heavy menstrual cycle, the reason why you're having so much pain is because of these particular foods. I want you to not eat that for the next 21 days, and let's see how it goes the next cycle. Now,
I know it's tough for a chick to date a doctor, man, because
I'm telling you,
they gotta go ahead. He's handing out prescriptions on a daily.
Sean, let me ask you this. I'm curious with your experience. How many times would you say, what percentage of the time you said you've been dealing with a woman and you've heard her have some form of like IBS or, bloating, or you just physically see that she's kind of got like this never-ending pooch situation going on? Like, what's the percentage?
First of all, yes, I don't really like dating the chicks with the pooch, but I would say about 70 to 80% of the time, a chick is either not regular, she is dealing with some level of constipation, or dealing with bloating, which they may use the excuse of the period a lot with the bloating, which I don't know whether that's true, a good excuse or not.
It's true.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
But just constipation and your problems regularly using the bathroom, about 75, 80%.
I would agree with that. Like, it's like a consistent experience. And now, of course, and the burp and shit too. Like, a lot of women, they just...
Man, who are you dating?
No. That's what I'm saying. Listen, first off,
You date Big Shirley, man?
No, Doc. Let me tell you. This is just the average woman.
Okay.
I really feel like the average woman is, and and I'm very curious too. I'm like, yo, what's got you? I'm calling out. What's got you burping like that?
Yeah.
Like, what are you eating?
Yeah.
But I'm still seeing a lot of people indulging in just the meats.
Yeah.
Like literally eating meat for dinner.
Yeah. The way I see it, in the climate that we're in, especially if you want to date a woman of color, a black woman or black or brown woman, is that, and it's also true for men, man, it is dangerous to be black today. Like in so many ways, and there's a lot of undue stress and anxiety that we go through being who we are. And what I've seen, especially for black women, is most people don't understand that, unfortunately, like black women are leading when it comes to cardiovascular disease, dying of cardiovascular disease. I'm saying they're worse than us. They're worse than our white counterparts. They're worse than everybody. And so that is a huge issue. Like our sisters are literally dying right before us and we don't even know it. But because I'm in the medical field, I get to see it up and close. And then we start to think about, you look in America, 75% of Americans are either overweight or obese. That's a real statistic. 75% of America is either overweight or obese. Okay? So when you start to look into those things and then start to think about the emotional component and the stress of being black, and then to think of how food addiction, which addiction is baked into the recipe of most foods today, and then emotional eating play in women's lives especially, the unfortunate consequence of that is unhealthy digestion. And the unfortunate consequence of unhealthy digestion is always going to be health issues. And so, it's really the conversation that we're having. I mean, we're having a lot of conversation about men today, but this conversation is also very important for women too, because, it's affecting us, both of us.
It's the
And to be
relationship,
honest,
yeah.
I would also talk about our culture.
Yeah.
As well. Even you take away all the stress, even when we celebrate, we start killing ourselves, right?
Yeah. Our celebration is a celebration of death.
Like it truly is. Like over Thanksgiving, we got the, think about we got the ass, the ham ass, the pig ass there. We got, if you still eating chill, I know people that still got the chillings and shit going on. The vegetables are seasoned to absolute death, and then we pray over it
perfection.
and then we say, hey, Lord Jesus, please let this food bless and nourish our body and soul. So the thing about it is it's a part of our culture too.
Yeah.
And I like to date young ladies that can cook. And even what that means, right? You know how to cook. You probably know how to put some shit together that ain't good for us.
Yeah.
Right? But it tastes amazing.
Right.
How do is it even realistic to expect a woman who's grown up culturally to cook these certain foods to now switch and transition to now, a healthy form of this? Is that a realistic expectation, or should I just try to scrap it and find another woman who's already on this wave?
No, man. Let me tell you something, man. The right woman can do anything. Trust me, brother. Like, you get the right woman, there's no alchemy she can perform. Anything, she could do it. It just has to be, are you triggering that in her to do that first? And is that something that she wants to do? It has to be both of those things.
The two variables. I like that.
It has to be both. And so, like, if I can do it, like, you got to understand, like, my family is from the South. My mom is, like, the best cook in the city. And when she cooks, like, people come over and, like, random people, like, yo, you got anything left over? I'll buy a plate. Like, that's the kind of cook my mom was growing up.
Wow.
And so as a result of that, I grew up eating that. I was the man of the house in my household. And so often my mom would get ready to cook and say, hey, what do you want me to cook today? I grew up like that. So I grew up on Southern food. But I had to make the transition because all of my grandparents died by the time I was in the 10th grade, brother. And it wasn't like natural causes. It was colorectal cancer. It was heart disease. It was diabetes, legs getting chopped off, toes being missing. And so it's just my consciousness that said that I have to break this generational curse. And so if I'm going to be with somebody, we have to be about breaking generational chains that are keeping us locked into our positions. And I think that not only for men, like, women got to take that position too. And if they're not willing to take that position, because how you eat is how your kid's going to eat.
I think about that a lot.
And the food is going to determine the diseases that manifest in the body. Diabetes is not, for the most part, it is not genetic. It is a food-borne illness.
So that's a good point, because I always say, more than anything else, we don't really, people say these diseases run in my family. It's not the disease, it's the lifestyles.
Yeah, for sure.
That run in our families. Yeah. But is there some truth to that?
Yeah.
Can disease actually, just the disease part, can the disease actually run in your family? Can you actually be more likely to have a disease because of who you were born from?
Well, there's two perspectives to it. So, like, in 2006, we unraveled the human DNA, and we were able to determine what genes do what, okay? And genes are like light switches. It can be turned on and it can be turned off, okay? And part of what we discovered in unraveling the human DNA was this. Only around about 5% of all diseases come from genetics. 5%. 95% comes from environment and lifestyle.
Wow.
And all of the ones that I just mentioned, you know, colorectal cancer and heart disease and high blood pressure and strokes and diabetes and even many of the autoimmune conditions, those are foodborne illnesses. That's lifestyle. That's environment. And so it's really important for us to understand it, from that perspective. What we do inherit and pass down is this. We pass down habits. And I know this because I've worked with people, like I've worked with, I worked with an older couple who was, maybe the husband's health was deteriorating, maybe the wife was deteriorating, and then I came over, and I used to do these back in the day where I would go over, have a sit down with them, we go to the kitchen, and then I'll just start reading labels and throwing shit in the trash. Right?
Wow.
And then they would have such a transformation as a couple. They'll say, well, we need to do this for my daughter and her husband. And so I would go over to the house, and guess what? They got the same foods in the cupboards and the refrigerator, the same stuff wrapped in aluminum foil in the freezer, same stuff. So what we really pass down are our food habits. And that's why I always tell people, man, health is truly wealth. Like, it is the foundation of wealth. It's not just a part of it, it's the foundation. Everything else becomes shaky when you don't got health in the equation. Because creating generational wealth, like, the first thing you're gonna pass down is not money, it's not assets, it's not, real estate. The first thing you're gonna pass down is genetics. You gotta remember what I just said. If you eat and live an unhealthy life, those genes for high blood pressure, yeah, they will be turned on. But you did that with the way you ate and lived. The genes for gut dysfunction will be turned on. The genes for, autoimmune diseases will be turned on. The genes for cancer will be turned on.
Wow.
But that's the first thing we hand down, genes. The second thing we hand down are habits. Whatever you do, your kid's gonna do. If you say, hell no, your kid gonna be 1 year old talking about hell no. Everything you do, it is just gonna be a sponge. And also what you allow. If you allow hot Takis and Sour Patches in the home, then and then you all of a sudden want them to eat some fruits and vegetables, they're gonna think you crazy. It's like, you want me to eat broccoli and kale and quinoa, but I'm watching you. Like, you got the Zaxby's right there. Nah, I'm gonna do what you do, not what you say.
And that's typically how, kids especially learn.
Yeah.
I actually, me and Ryan both, we actually went to a very popular woman here. She's the Vitamin Lady.
Okay.
Here in Atlanta. She does your blood tests. They tell you, based upon your blood test, what you should and should not be eating.
Like what foods are
And it blew my-
therapeutic or inflammatory.
Or cause inflammation.
Okay.
So it's kind of crazy because for me, I'm looking at it and I'm like, first of all, I love bananas. I got an A blood type. It was telling me bananas are not good for you. Melons are not good for you. I was just killing some watermelon this whole,
whole summer.
The whole summer was smashing watermelon. And I'm like, damn, could it even be that the fruits are not even good for me based on my blood type? What's your thoughts on, eating based on blood types? Is that something we should focus on, or just eat fruits and veggies, period, and you'll be good? Or should I really look at eating a blood type based diet?
Now for me, it's not part of my philosophy. So, and I'll give you an example. I was working with somebody, and they told me the person that they were working with had initially told them like they needed to eat for their blood type, and their blood type predicted that they needed to have a high protein diet. Okay, and they suggested that they have this amount of meat throughout their day and throughout the week, etc. And what I explained to them was, there may be some validity to that in terms of like, you may need to have a high protein diet, but what's important is your protein does not have to come from meat. So yeah, you may need more protein, but it doesn't have to come from meat. You have to remember what I said. Our bodies need amino acids. Okay? We make we make about 8 or 9 of them, and then we have to get 12 from our diet. Okay, so we make a lot of them, and then the rest we have to get from our diets. And with those 20, 21 amino acids, any protein in the body can be formed. Heart muscle can be formed, quadricep muscles can be formed, any muscle in the body can be formed.
What's heart muscle?
Well, it's the muscle in your heart, your myocardium. So like, let's say that somebody has a heart attack and they need to regenerate tissue, okay? Now, if you're healthy enough, that would actually happen. As a matter of fact, they have seen that a lot of people, like, you ever heard somebody having like a triple bypass surgery? Yeah. That's where they take out arteries, and sometimes they'll take them from the leg and put them in the heart, that sort of thing. They have seen that the heart, when there's a blockage, the heart muscle will start to reconform and send blood in a whole different pattern and create its own pathways for the blood to still be delivered. You understand?
So when I think of heart health or like somebody having a strong heart, I thought that was just all genetics. But you can actually, I guess, improve the strength of your heart.
Yeah, 100%.
Is that like cardiovascular? Is that like the same thing? Okay.
Same thing.
Okay.
So it's really important, like, to understand that this body is designed to heal itself. But our job is to figure out how we need to get out of the way, because that's what it means. We're in the way when we get disease in the body, in the form of our diet, in the form of how we stress, in the form of inactivity, in the form of lack of exercise, in the form of lack of sun, etc. We need to figure out what have we done to get in the way of our healing, because the body is designed to do that. So that's what I mean by it's just really important for us to understand, like that was one of the epiphanies of having all of this education like loaded into my brain, and then having to unlearn it in a totally different way, because the way that they teach us in school, like, and the way that I think now, and the way I look at how the body works and how nature works, in many ways it is totally the opposite, but it makes sense. Because in modern medicine, it is designed to treat us, okay, not heal us. So when you go to the doctor, that's why nobody with high blood pressure, diabetes, etc., nobody gets off medication. Because it's treatment. And treatment is manipulation of biochemistry, whereas healing is correction of biochemistry. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Yeah, so you're trying to tweak something else to get the result you're looking for.
Yeah, it's like going out on a date, right? You can manipulate the woman into dating you, or you can create chemistry.
Natural chemistry.
Homeostatic chemistry, that she sees who you are and says, because I see who you are, now I feel you.
That makes sense.
You see what I'm saying? But you can go out there and rent a Bugatti. Right. Dress the part, speak the part, and all of a sudden you got the woman of your dreams that you will never have in any other circumstances. Or you can show up as your true self and say, look, this is who I am. I honestly don't know who you are, but I'm in love with what I see. I like to get to know more, and she could be intrigued by that. I'd rather go that route than the manipulation route.
And that's a hell of an example, Doc. And I want to ask a quick question here too, because another thing that's happening in our culture and our society is with the, I don't even want to call it therapy, but our drugs. You know, like, that's now a big thing that's happening. Whenever something goes commercial, I know it's some major red flags is about to happen, right?
For sure.
So, the legalization of weed is taking place.
Yes.
So a lot of people getting their hands on it. A lot of people are now creating these drugs that we put into our body. And even what we now are in the culture calling that good gas.
Yeah.
Right?
That loud pack.
Right, that loud pack, right? That stuff with the orange hairs. You want the purple orange hairs. No seeds, no stems.
The hybrids, everything.
It's all hybrids going on. It's crazy. So what's really going on with the marijuanas? Is this something also that we should be trying to stay away from? And if we don't stay away from it, how should we be trying to use these things?
Man, I mean, you said it. It's like, whenever they start to legalize something and say this is cool now, you know what I mean by when I say they have deviled up the process. And so it's really important to understand, even with cannabis, even though you see it as a natural plant, they didn't legalize it until you started to see all of these hybrids. Like when it was just something that was just the homeboy down the street would grow in the back of the yard, like it was dead illegal. And if you look at all the studies behind cannabis, like the real studies, like the initial study that pretty much made cannabis illegal was a study that they did with monkeys. And most people, they say it caused brain damage and lung damage, and et cetera. But people didn't look at the study. What they did with the monkeys were they put a mask over the monkey where they could not breathe, only in the mask. And in that mask, all they got was marijuana smoke coming in. So of course, like if you're breathing in a mask,
Right.
it will
That's all you're getting.
It caused damage to the brain, it caused damage to the lungs, et cetera. They didn't look at it like from the normal perspective of how somebody would use it recreationally. So it's important to even look at the initial studies that they used to kind of like make this drug like this gateway drug that they called it. But what's important to understand like today is just what I was saying, like they have made a plant into a product.
And anytime it gets productized is when it's going.
It's a problem.
Okay.
So now you can patent a hybrid if you wanted to. Nobody else can grow it. But you can't go patent sativa or indica because those things are natural. And then also what you're seeing now is like you're seeing a lot of people have a lot of psychosis behind smoking marijuana now. I mean, I've seen a mother bring her son into the ER, and when she described what was happening, he had smoked some marijuana, and he was playing his music loud in the room, and she smelt it coming from under the door. So she went to open the door. He wouldn't open it. The music's loud. She's afraid. She kicks the door in, goes in. Her child tries to have sex with her, pulls her dress up, and then collapses on the floor. She calls the ER. He goes to the ER, and he has had psychosis for the last 8 months. So when I say psychosis, just not being himself.
Wow.
But that's all because you've manipulated the plant. Because when you look at, so they have the medicinal component in marijuana called CBD that most people know about. And then you have THC, which is the hallucinogenic part of it, or the part that gives you the high. And so what they've done is they've called this the good part, the CBD, and they call the THC the bad part. But in nature, they work together. And without each other, they don't work very, very well. Also, what's really important to understand, the ratio is very important too. So they've sent the THC levels up. I mean, when you start looking at some of these hybrids like Fireball and Kush and Slinky Head and all that kind of stuff, like the TH levels are through the roof. It's supposed to be like 0.8% in a normal plant, like in a real plant.
We call that shit mid.
Yeah, that's mid. That's definitely mid.
But when you look at it in a hybrid, it could be as much as 4%.
Wow.
Like that's
It's different.
People just don't understand. Like when you manipulate nature like that, like you don't know what you're going to get.
So are you saying that we should not be smoking weed?
You definitely should not be smoking anything that is hybrid.
So you saying we should be growing our own weed?
Don't make me.
Edibles only. Edibles only.
Hey, so okay, all right. Well, I'm about to get into botany.
Now, okay. So Doc, you mentioned obesity, and you said a statistic that was rather alarming. You said 75% of the world is obese. Is that what you said?
Yeah, 75% of America.
Of the U.S. is obese.
Yeah, is either obese or overweight.
Okay, so now I want to know what's the difference between being what is overweight and what is obese?
Well, overweight just means that based upon the body mass index, you're based upon your height and your structure, you have a little bit of excessive weight on your body. That's overweight.
Okay.
Obese is a clinical definition that says that not only are you overweight, but you are overweight to a level that is a BMI greater than 31. Okay? So that's the difference between it. And
it's like severe overweightness.
So it's severity.
Got you.
So you go from overweight to obese to morbidly obese. Make sense?
That makes sense.
So it's just different categories.
So is it possible to be healthy and be overweight?
Yes, it's possible to be healthy and overweight, because what the BMI doesn't account for is, you got to understand, like, there's different body structures.
Got it.
You see what I'm
A woman
saying?
with that nice thick ass.
You're right. She's a little overweight, but she's healthy.
Yeah. And so, like, you know, like, but if you take somebody who's 5'2" and they weigh 200 pounds, that doesn't make sense.
That ain't gonna be right. Yeah.
That's not right.
Now that's obese. So it's not, you cannot be obese and healthy. You can be overweight and healthy.
Possibly, because even you could be slim and unhealthy. There's a thing called TOFI, thin on the outside, fat on the inside. And because fat is like, to a certain level, once you start accumulating certain level of fat on your body, it becomes its own organism. You know, fat can thief away your vitamin D levels. So you could be vitamin D deficient because of having excess fat on the body. You know, fat also creates more estrogen in the body because of aromatase. So it can send your estrogen levels up in the body as well. Also, what's really important about fat is actually a collector of toxicity. Now, that's a good thing, because if you're bringing a lot of toxic things in the body, especially eating a lot of processed food, which Americans do, 60 to 70% of their diets is the SAD diet, standard American diet, and processed, okay? If you're eating a lot of processed food, you're eating a lot of food chemistry, okay? The chemistry is in there to preserve the food, to make the food last longer on the shelf. That's why nothing rots and molds anymore.
Right.
Like back in the day, bread used to mold. It doesn't mold anymore. It may get hard, but it doesn't even mold anymore. So food doesn't even go bad anymore. But that's because of the food chemistry they're putting in it. Now that preserves the food, but it doesn't preserve you. It makes you sick. And the body has to figure out where to put all this toxicity. And in its ingenuity, it says, I'm gonna store it in the fat.
Now, Doc, in my most poorest days, ramen noodles, which were unspoilable, actually preserved my life because they kept me alive because I was broke as hell.
Yeah, indeed.
So what is somebody who's broke as hell, right? Is it possible to really be broke as hell and to be eating healthy?
If you prioritize, I think that's the most important thing. You know, like I started a statistic where, you know, an article where they were talking about how in America, even the poorest have $1,000 phone. Like even the poorest here in America have a phone that costs $1,000. So when you start to break those things down and look at little things like that, because we don't think about that. Like when you see someone or you are someone who you don't have the means to even pay your bills, but you have $1,000 phone, the priorities aren't in the right place. You understand? And then there's another huge part of the issue is that, you know, in our communities, you got food deserts and you got food inequality. And so they don't, you know, in poor neighborhoods, they don't have access to healthy food either. So even if they wanted to eat healthy and they went to the grocery store, they go to the green leafy vegetable section of the produce section, and the leaves are like this.
You know, and that's true.
That's so
True. Because the better the neighborhood, the better the fruits and vegetables look in the grocery store.
100%.
So true.
Wow. So it's far more complicated than just can you be without enough means and eat healthy. It's also a mindset, because like I told you, like for us, when we say we're about to eat good, we're about to eat bad. It always means that. It never means I'm about to actually eat good.
No, never.
Like we don't have that training. We don't have that programming. Like we don't think like me, and coming from an impoverished neighborhood, like if I knew what I knew now back then, like I'd have been like, damn, like this is how I become a better athlete. I eat like this. I don't care what I gotta do. Like I'll just, instead of having 4 pair of Jordans, I'll just have a pair of Nikes to eat this way, because this is gonna get me to a Jordan deal. at some point in my life. If I had that mindset, like back in the days, I would have been. I'll give you. This is a great example. So when I was in the 6th grade, I saw the movie Malcolm X. And Malcolm X is like one of my heroes, and he's one of my heroes because my uncle was a freedom fighter during the civil rights. And so when I saw the movie Malcolm X, I thought to myself, like, that's the kind of man I want to be for my community. And so I took one thing out of the movie and I said, I can at least do that. I said, I'm not eating pork anymore in 6th grade. And I went to my mom and I said to my mom, I don't eat that anymore. And for the first couple of weeks, she was just like, well, you just gonna starve.
Right. She thought it was disrespect.
Yeah.
And then
You
eventually,
gonna eat whatever I cook.
Right.
and then eventually she started bringing an alternative.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? So like, even though I grew up in a very impoverished neighborhood and we didn't have a lot of means and it was 5 of us, like my mom was able to make a different decision for me just simply based off the fact that I said, this is what I'm doing different now. So I always tell people, no matter where you are in life, you could still make powerful decisions. And a lot of times what we like to do is disempower ourselves and say, I don't have the money, so I can't make the decision. But instead of having a Twinkie or a honey bun, you can have some fruit. And if you go to the fruit section of the store, the prices are equivalent.
Yep.
In many cases. So you always have a choice. That's all. I never, like, especially being able to come up from where I came up, I love telling people, like, look, they want you to believe that you can empower yourself. They want you to believe that you got to eat this McDonald's right here because it's just right there. But you don't. And guess what? When you don't, they go out of business. And then you know what happens? A business comes in and fills the space and then starts bringing food in that people will actually buy.
Would you ever even show up to a McDonald's?
Not a chance.
So would you date,
Me either.
if a woman that you were dating, you found out she ate McDonald's, is that like I'm going to talk to her about this? Or is
no,
that
it's not no conversation. And the reason why it isn't is because it takes a mindset to go to McDonald's. Everybody knows McDonald's, like on the totem pole of what's the worst type of food to eat.
It's McDonald's.
People gonna always, like, take a poll. They're gonna say, what's the worst place you can go to eat? McDonald's is gonna be like 90% of the time. So if I'm especially at this level of the game, like, you gotta date from the cloth that you're cut from right now.
I love that.
You can't date from the cloth that you were cut from. So if you even if I see a woman and she's like, because I've met women before, right now the girl I date, she's fully plant-based, vegan, etc. But I've dated women before who thought they were eating healthy, and I was like,
So they getting the chicken nuggets.
and they're eating tuna like with every meal out of a can. And I'm like, yo, that's not healthy. And they're like, how? Like, I'm not eating McDonald's. I'm like, true. But let me tell you about eating out of a can and the mercury that comes along with that, and also the BPA and all of these other things and how unhealthy that is. So that's something I can work with because they thought they were eating healthy.
Got it.
Nobody thinks they're eating healthy if they go to McDonald's.
They just gave up.
That makes
They
sense.
ain't even give up. This is part of the plan. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like for me, like the mindset isn't the same. And if I'm gonna move with force, like I gotta move with somebody who's moving with force too, who's at least in the mindset of thinking to themselves, like, I'm making powerful decisions about not only what I do outside of myself, but what I'm doing inside of myself as well.
I like that you said that. So pretty much what you decide to eat on a daily basis has everything to do with your mindset.
It has everything to do with your mindset and then also your knowledge too.
Okay.
So I'll admit, like, because there's so much confusion in what is and what isn't healthy, like I understand why people are eating the way they do. So I don't judge somebody who's trying, somebody who's in the path of saying, well, I'm eating healthier now. Did you guys see the You saw the thing about low vibrational plates.
Yeah, we seen that. So
Never seen the same shit. Never seen the same shit.
You got corn and meat. She got corn and meat. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like, that's different. It's like, wait, I don't see the difference here. And I think the explanation was I wasn't eating as much.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was just portion.
Yeah,
it was just portion size.
But like quality of everything, that's how I look at it. It's like people understand quality when they're buying sneakers and coats and jeans. Why don't you understand quality when it comes to food? You see what I'm saying? So like that's my perspective. Is like, you know, like that's just how I live life. It's like I want quality conversations. I want quality relationships. I want quality food. I want quality experiences. You know, like if I'm gonna be with somebody, like my primary objective, friend, romantic, platonic, my primary, I have to make them better. Like, and if I don't make them better, we probably shouldn't be friends. We probably shouldn't be lovers. You see what I'm saying? There's no, like, life is about movement and flow. And if we're not on that constant path of growth and evolution and raising our vibration, then we just not for each other.
No low vibrational women, all right?
Yo, so
none of that.
We need to get the men. We need to get the men equipped. We need to get them equipped with like a starter pack or something. You know what I mean? Like, what are some basic things that any man could start doing to set that foundation of health?
Yeah, the first thing is you got to have a healthy, wealthy mindset.
Okay.
That's like by far, that's the most important thing, because if you don't start with that, either one or two things are going to happen. You're going to quit along your journey, because the unfortunate thing is like there's always going to be temptation and there's always going to be a reason to go back. It's like, you know, listen, I'm not crazy. I know that 2 people wings taste good. Right. I know like to a person, a honey bun may taste good. But my thing that I always tell people is that it tastes good to you because your mindset is of that. If I were to taste a honey bun, first of all, the sugar would cause my whole jaw to lock up. But also I would be thinking to myself, like, what are you doing to yourself, brother, eating this honey bun? And that's the kind of thing that I mean about mindset.
You'd be disgusted with yourself.
I'm disgusted with myself, and people don't realize it, but subconsciously, you do that to yourself when you eat horrible. You don't know it consciously, but when you eat horrible, this is why so many people don't have self-worth and self-value, is because in so many areas of their life, they're making poor decisions and they know it. They know they're making poor decisions when they come to their choice in women or men. They know they're making poor decisions when it comes to their choice in food. They're making poor decisions when it comes to like emotional intelligence. And at some point, you're gonna not only turn the finger on yourself and say, like, what are you doing to yourself? But you're gonna start to say, like, what kind of person are you to do this to yourself? Like, I think you can justify, like a person can justify doing it to someone else, but when they start to do it to themselves, they're like, subconsciously, like, that's a higher version of you. It's like, damn, you really don't, you just don't give a fuck.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Really
And so it's just really important to understand mindset is the first thing you got to have in the tool belt. The second thing is you got to have a plan as a man. You got to have a plan. Like, what is your overarching vision for yourself as it relates to your health, as it relates to your mindset, as it relates to your goals? You got to have that vision. And this is why, you know, I'm not religious, but I really believe that a man without a vision will perish always. When you don't have a vision, you don't have goals. You can't have goals without a vision, because the vision is the whole encompassing plan. The goals are just the steps to get there. And so if you don't have that vision, when you start to make goals, you're always going to quit, because it doesn't lead you anywhere. So you got to have a vision around your health. And my vision around my health is this: the family that I create is going to be the family that changes the world. You know, they're going to be the kids that when they interact with other kids, kids are gonna be like, man, like I really like this kid. You know, I saw him drinking a green smoothie and licking his lips and then loving it. Like, Mom, why don't you make me green smoothies? Like, that's the kind of, like, I want my interaction with my woman to be that of, you know, before we have sex, we love each other so much, we meditate before and after. And then she goes and have a conversation with her girl, like, girl, like, sex is good before, after, and during because of this. That's the kind of, like, shift I want to create with a family. So that's my overarching vision of what I want for my life. And with that being intact, now I got to live it. And so as a man, you got to create that overarching vision for yourself. Because if you don't, I'm here to tell you, getting money isn't enough. Once you get it, you're going to find out it's not enough. You're going to see all these people walking back saying it's a dead end. And you ain't going to believe them because you got to see it for yourself. And they're not going to convince you because they know you got to walk down the path to see it. But I'm here to tell you, money is not enough. In the world of got to get to the bag, I'm here to tell you the bag isn't enough if it's only money inside of it. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So you got to have that vision for yourself. And then the other thing is you got to take a holistic approach to your health. And what that means is it's not just about what you eat. It's about how you exercise. It's about the quality of what you drink and the water and other beverages as well. It's about how you interact in the relationships you have, because you do damage to yourself whenever you choose a certain emotion to interact with. We get to choose our emotions, and most of us don't understand that we get to choose that. I get to choose to overact. I get to choose to not care. I get to choose to say it's not worth it.
Ain't nobody made you mad.
Ain't nobody made me mad.
Right.
I made a choice that that's how I was going to respond. So even me as a person, even when I do get mad, I say, damn, I don't know why I chose violence today.
Right.
I did not have to do that.
Yeah.
It is not healthy for me to choose violence. As much as people think that's cool, it does damage to you, okay? And so it's just really important, you know, I would say those are the three things that I would really focus on.
I like that.
Dr. Bobby
that's a
Price
good starter
busting
pack.
down the solutions for us, man.
Dr. Holistic in the building.
I appreciate you really breaking down these solutions and these answers to these questions that we have, because health is a mystery. And I think, like you said, there's a lot of reasons that, you know, we are confused. As confused as we are, because there's a lot of money behind the confusion.
Yeah, there's
But let me
lot
tell
of
you,
effort.
this brother here got the answers.
He do. He done dropped the What the Health documentary. That's for the young ones that ain't seen that one.
Yeah.
You got Malcolm X. That's for the young ones and the old ones who still don't know who the hell Malcolm X is. And yo, you got that Jack Johnson on. You represent. He was the first black heavyweight world champion.
Yeah,
Whooping ass back in the day.
Yeah, I love. I think he's like, he doesn't get his just due, but to be in the early 1900s and 15, you know, maybe 20 years out of slavery, even though it was 1865, people don't understand that there was a buffer zone.
Right.
It was still slavery.
It was still some slaves out there. Right.
But to be 20 years out of slavery and to have the gall to not only be in a ring, but be cracking white people white men across the head, and doing it in such a way, like with the audacity that he did it, I think it's just a pure representation of what we're capable of, you know, and I think it's also a great representation of, you know, what we can do when we put our minds to it and we lose the fear, you know, so like that's why I love this sweatshirt, so.
See, look, this
We
brother,
rocking with it.
This brother said he not religious, but he deep and spiritual as hell. I
It's
already can tell. We could have really took this a whole nother place if we wanted to, but we're going to keep it right here in this episode. We're going to just keep it right here in the health. But I got a really good feeling we're going to get this brother back on, because you here in Atlanta too, right?
Yes, indeed.
And you got some good products for the people. You got some good solutions that we don't even have.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to want to know after watching this episode. Tell them what you got for them and how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so the foundation of, like, when people say, like, I got this going on, like, the foundation of what I always tell people to do is detox. So that's my number one product, and that's essentially like an oil change. Like we have all of these processes for our cars. We do an oil change every 3 months. We change the brakes, the tires, the spark plugs, the wires. We detail the inside, the outside of the car. We don't have one process for our bodies to maintain our health. And so one of the ways that I maintain my health, keep mental clarity, keep my size, keep good gut health is by detoxing every 3 to 4 months, like an oil change. So I have a 14-day and a 28-day detox, sea moss, herbal supplements. I just came out with a recipes and remedies book because a lot of people ask me, well, I want to eat food the way you eat it because I can't eat just ice and carrots.
Right.
Like I want to eat food that is tasty and good for you, nutritious and delicious. So came out with that. And then I most recently came out with a holiday cookbook. And the reason why I came out with that was because, you know, like I told you, I'm not religious and I really don't celebrate a lot of American holidays. And so my idea was, well, I want to be around family and celebrate, but I want to celebrate in my own way. So I created some recipes, soul food recipes, but an alkaline vegan version of them, but also added in some West African recipes as well. Cause I'm like, it's holidays. This is a good time for us to celebrate our heritage during this time instead of creating all these meals that are literally killing us. And so, and most of us actually come from West Africa. You know, if you did your genealogy and did a ancestry test, most of us come from West Africa. So I got some Nigerian okra stew in there, some Ghana jollof. I got some egusi and fufu, all the good stuff.
We be on all that.
We be on all of that. Cool.
Trust me, we be on all of that.
Everything.
Yeah.
I love it.
So that'll be coming out pretty soon. So check the website for that.
Yo, invite us to the house next time you throw that on the stove. Right? You know?
Facts.
That'll turn me vegan. You give me some okra soup right there. I'll be down with it.
Hey, we're gonna bring some of those overweight joints over there, some thick joints. Just know.
Not obese, be overweight.
Hey, just right.
Slayer.
Hey.
That's what's up, man. You got the plan, man. You published. That's what I love. That's what I like.
And also make sure, please give them the ways you told them what you got. How do they get in touch with you though?
Yeah, so my website, drbobbyprice.com. That's drbobbyprice.com. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Holistic. That's Dr. spelled out DoctorHolistic. And then on Facebook and YouTube, you can just find me as Dr. Bobby Price. And so we have a membership program, products. Just a one-stop shop on how to heal holistically and naturally.
They need that too, man.
Y'all don't be going around this city over there slanging that gummy worm, all right? Because listen, they're gonna be talking about you in that group chat. So you better get your shit together. But listen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Highly Initiated. We are out.
Peace.